Death Club.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Danny here, and today we're talking to you about Hallym Gymnasium. So Hallym Gymnasium, or Young FC PvP, which is the official English name on the YLab website. I think that's an awful name. It makes sense, but I think Hallym Gymnasium is way better. Anyways, this series is a spin-off from Revival Man, and I was going through the YLab website, scrolling through the series that were on there, just seeing what they don't have that's part of the Superstring universe, and I kept seeing this one, and I was like, is that our boy? Is it? But the art is different because this is from a different team working on this from Revival Man, so I figured, I don't know, and then reading the description, it didn't sound right, but turns out it is. I checked out the first chapter, and I was like, oh yeah, no, obviously this is the spinoff, and this came out in 2020, very recent. And unfortunately, like majority of these webtoons, it's not officially translated. Therefore, we have to go with the fan translations. And then again, unfortunately, not everything is translated. Right now, there's only 7 out of the 43 chapters. And going on manga updates about this series, it's usually just one team, right, that works on a series at a time. It's not multiple people translating the same thing. And for this one, the team just hasn't, and I think it's mainly because they were posting on Manga Dex, which is down right now. So it hasn't been updating at all, which sucks because I would like to see more, but I kind of get the gist of where we're going into the series. Let's go ahead and get into it, man. This is written by Hie Song and drawn by Suk Jae, and this takes place freshman year of one Jeon Young Ha, aka the Bruce Lee fanatic from the main series. And since he's older than Seokwan, this is 2 years prior to Origin of Revival. So I doubt we're going to even be seeing him in this series. Maybe at the end of all of this, it'll flash forward into him being a senior in high school, and then he bumps into Seokwan, and that would be a nice way to wrap it up, and then you could just hop on over back to the main series from there. So this is about his life, and it starts off with him being in middle school, and right off the bat, it tells you exactly who he is and his upbringing, essentially. As we know him from the main series, he's this badass Bruce Lee fanatic who can actually kick ass using Jeet Kune Do and all of that good stuff. And he wasn't always like that. We find out in middle school he was weak, being bullied with his friends, and one day he just was tired of it and decided to fight back. And ever since then, he decided that he needs to be the strongest to protect his friends around him and what I thought was to end bullying at the schools, but that doesn't feel like it's the case when we flash forward to him being a freshman in high school. He's got a posse. It's not exactly what I expected, surprisingly. He's very angry and has this attitude to where it's just fueled with rage because of these things that still keep happening around him. Even though he's become strong, they're still there. So it's his goal to be number one in the area and make sure there is no bullying allowed. But it doesn't really feel like that right off the bat because, again, he has the posse, like I said. They hang out with a bunch of girls. They go to the bar. They drink and all of that. And he really feels like a gang leader. And, they are a group, but they don't do the typical stuff you would see these kind of gangs do. They kind of just like to hang out, do their own thing, and if they see a problem, they may step in and help out. Right off the bat, I said, okay, this is interesting because we're coming from a place where he's unfamiliar, and it's going to be the journey that changes him in this series. Then one night, his friends are walking around, accidentally bumps into this guy rocking a hoodie, and they're like, hey, do you know who we are? This, and that, kind of being big and intimidating this guy, trying to get an apology from bumping into him. Classic delinquent Yakuza stuff that you find in delinquent mangas and in the Yakuza series. Guy doesn't take this nicely and kicks everyone's ass. They call their boss John, and as he's right on the phone getting the description of the guy, walks right past him and says, "Don't worry, I found him. I'm going to end this right now." But Doesn't happen. Gets his ass whooped hard. First time he's felt defeat in a long time. Very angry and frustrated, looking for him tirelessly. He's on edge because now he's weak again, and he doesn't want to feel that anymore. He has to be top dog in order to find some levity in his young life here. Eventually we find out this guy's name is Kang So-ho, and he is essentially the rival of this series. I wouldn't say antagonist because he just fought him because John started the fight. So there's really not that kind of antagonistic conflict involved with this character. But he is a long-standing rival, as I'm going to guess in this series. As we dive in, and the meaning behind the official translation, Young FC PvP, we find out this guy, Kang So-ho, is in this tournament called FC PvP. A bunch of high schoolers or of that age range can come in and fight in these underground matches, and they can earn points, and once they become adults, they can cash in those points for real money. And boy, is there a lot of money in this. So one of the leading guys sees our boy, John, and says, that guy's got potential, I want him in here. John gets whooped again by Kang So-ho after wanting to get a revenge match. It's not happening, and reluctantly decides, you know what, fine, I have to get stronger. Let's hop into this tournament and see what's going on. With only 7 chapters, we only get to see one official match happen, and you kind of get the idea of what's going on. We get the point system, we get the structure of how the matches go. It's your typical underground fight tournament type of thing. You just got to work your way up, level up, and eventually you'll get to the top, which is Kang So-ho. He's number 1 in this underground tournament. And that definitely catches John's eye because he wants to be number 1. So if he beats Kang So-ho, he will be the new number 1. And so that's pretty much the main premise of this. However, we do meet another very important character, and I don't believe we got her name in these chapters. The first appearance of this character, I immediately knew, okay, she is super important, and it's really going to change John's life in this series. Something definitely going to happen to her, and that's going to cause a big shift and change in him. And then that's how we're going to get the one we know from the main series and from season 0 of Revival Man. And the reason I say that is because she is from the same gym as Kang So-ho, which is Hallym Gymnasium. And that sounds familiar because that is the gym John goes to in Revival Man. That's pretty much the base of operations in the main series. And that's where we meet, key characters, some training arcs happen, and a lot of great stuff comes out of the gym. So I thought the focus was going to be on that. And part of it, of course, is the tournament. I guess the tournament is sort of the backbone of the series, and then everything else coming in is the meat. And the reason she is important is because not only is she from the same gym, but because of her attire that she wears. It is the infamous Game of Death outfit that Bruce Lee wears that is all over media, right? Like in Kill Bill, in the Gorillas, I think a character wears it. You just see it all over the place. The classic yellow onesie with the black stripes. So immediately right there, I was like, oh, she obviously is probably going to be a fan of Bruce Lee, though she doesn't really imitate his moves in her fight style. But I'm sure she will be a fan. And if I had to guess, it's going to be a romantic type of thing between these two characters. And then something's going to happen to her, thus causing John to really change his attitude up, start becoming a fan of Bruce Lee because she's a fan, and he kind of wants to carry that with him in remembrance of her, as well as stick around at the gym. Those are my predictions. I feel like it's going to be a lot longer than 50 chapters of where we're near right now as of this recording. So we got a long way to go. And if I had to guess, he's going to ask for training from her. Well, he does ask for training from her. And then at the end of chapter 7, a nice teaser, we see the owner of the gym that trains Seok-hwan, as well as all the other characters that work at the gym. Or not work at the gym, but are part of the gym in the main series. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was hoping we would see him because these chapters made it feel like he wasn't there, because every time we got to the gym, it was always in the outside. They never went in, and it was either this girl or Kang So-ho that was there. But yeah, it was nice to see him there, and I'm looking forward to the next chapters, hopefully whenever they get translated. The art style is definitely different. It has sort of a Marvel comic feel to it. There's a specific artist, I don't remember his name, but it's definitely with like the thick with the thick lines and the way the color is and the way the faces are very expressive when it comes to being pissed off. Like that's the main thing when it comes to this series. Just a lot of anger in the face is really expressive. It's very different from what we see, right? I think the best example of our boy John is in season 0 for Revival Man. There's a few specific panels of just his face just looking, and you could feel the intimidation and the strength he exerts just by standing there. And here it's the same thing, but just a lot of anger. And I wonder if this art style is going to be suitable to how he looks by the end of this. I wonder. The fights are great. Choreography is good. The art is fantastic when it comes to that. And also nice with the coloring. It sort of has that Webtoon filter on the main series for Revival Man, and here it's very bold. Again, reminds me a lot of a specific Marvel comic artist from a few years back. He's specific Wolverine runs, and at one point there were some Guardian issues I read where the art was like this. So I appreciate that. Part of it makes sense because of the tone that we're getting already with this series and maybe the structuring of how the tournaments can be. I mean, the first fight with Jean can get pretty brutal, and with this being angry art, I guess you could say, it complements it very well. And unfortunately, that's all I have to say as we wait for new chapters to come in, but it'll definitely be interesting to see what's going on. Overall, I would say give this a look if you're a fan of delinquent and tournament series. This is right up your alley. And of course, this is connected to Revival Man, so if you're a fan of that, definitely come in here and see what's going on. And so with that, I think it's safe to say we go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thanks guys for sticking around on this one. If you have any questions or comments, you can always send an email to unversedpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be sure to answer that on the next episode, as always. And then you could give us a follow on social media at Unversed Podcast anywhere you go, and we'll let you know when those episodes drop. So thanks, guys, and we will catch you on the next one.